bridgeworm. The bridgeworm is a species of creature that makes its habitat the various tunnels across America. It resembles a large, white, fleshy mass with a portion of its head having grooves and markings that resemble a human face. This isn't the bridgeworm's actual face. Its true face is actually underneath. It can lift this mask of sorts to reveal rows of sharp teeth and disturbingly human-looking eyes. As it only reveals its true face during hunts, it's assumed that the bridgeworm has more senses than suggested. There are also 2 long, powerful arms it needs to grow. These clawed appendages allow the bridgeworm to rapidly move through tunnels by grabbing the walls and rapidly pulling itself forward. The creature also uses its arms to grab its prey and rip it apart with monstrous strength into smaller pieces for easier consumption, though it's not uncommon to just swallow the prey whole. Its name is actually a misunderstanding because the bridgeworm is normally discovered in tunnels. It's that the first mentioned viewing was at a tunnel under a bridge, and the name stuck. Tunnels are the creature's hunting grounds, and usually it does so by disabling cars and ripping people out of their car windows, though it's easier if it's just a person walking in the tunnel. Its presence can be discovered in several ways. First off, the tunnels it hunts in have broken lights. The acidity of the slime it oozes as it travels is able to eat through the bulbs of the lights. This acid also leaves the tunnel walls and floors unusually smooth. The lack of traction on the floor has led to an increase in accidents for drivers, especially during the winter when this discharged slime freezes. It basically becomes black ice. At first, the multiple vanishings and deaths were attributed to other creatures, legitimate accidents, and coincidences, but that is when it was discovered that the bridgeworm isn't just an isolated creature, but rather an invasive species. This creature, usually seen as a long, white worm-like thing, can bud itself off. It actually explains why there are more survivors than estimated. The creatures don't always attack for subsistence. It will attack a large truck or semi and, during the attack, will rip a portion of its tail off and attach it to the undercarriage of the vehicle. After that, the worm will stop its attack and retreat. The driver, having gotten away, will usually write off the attacker's exhaustion from the many hours of driving. They will then keep driving as the bud grows and grows. Once that driver passes through an unoccupied tunnel, the bud will drop off the truck's undercarriage and then grow into a new bridgeworm. This was discovered when the agency was able to recover one such egg or bud from a survivor, a trucker named Red, and his truck, which he affectionately named Betsy. Red was lucky enough to encounter the back end of the worm as it was filling a tunnel at the time. Before he realized it, the tunnel rapidly vacated itself. Thinking it was a weird snowfall and it being late, Red decided to keep going. Going down the tunnel, Red was attacked by the bridgeworm. It was able to stall out Betsy's engine. It also left several large gashes alongside the cab. Red was lucky enough to get the engine started and was able to escape the chasing bridgeworm. When he got into town, Red reported the incident, and the agency was swift enough to intercept the report and were able to examine the damaged semi-truck. It was then that the bridgeworm's bud was discovered and taken into custody. Testing it allowed a lot of information to be discovered about the worm. For one thing, it only grows in proportion to the tunnel it is in. The glass tubes we contained it in only let it grow to a 2-foot length, rather than the 30-foot average found in nature. An important thing to note is that not once did the bridgeworm attempt to leave its tunnel once it settled. Even when it was physically injured, it wouldn't leave. It can also flatten itself to almost paper thin and adjust its skin to match the tunnel that it makes home. Impacts don't damage it at all because of this, as it can compress with any blow that hits it. Fire doesn't do anything, as the slime that it constantly produces is inflammable, nor does freezing. Cutting the worm is somewhat effective, but only to the point of reducing the worm's size. The detached piece will grow into a full-sized worm after several weeks. What we did find to work was to either poison its food or, as with other worms, use salt. The salt actually caused the worm to wither and prevented it from healing itself as easily. Plans are made to salt as many tunnels in America as possible, ostensibly in order to improve winter travelling. That, and closing known bridgeworm tunnels for repair, so the agency can starve them.